Hi guys, May 27th. This video is all about icons and sprites, which I will start off by explaining what a sprite is for those of you who don't know. If you go to a website like, say, Facebook, you will see, obviously, icons all around the page. Most of these are traditional SVGs, but some of them are called sprites. And if you see me focusing in on this particular one here, you'll notice that the icon is actually produced as part of a small image file, which is revealed only in the amount that is required in order to display that icon. So it's in effect a background image. It's very small in size, and this in fact is the image. I know it's probably very small in this video, but as you can see, a series of little icons, one on top of the other, and in the CSS of the page, we can reveal just the little part of the image that we want to in order to create an icon without having to use an SVG. Obviously, the benefits are that you can hand draw, in effect, these icons, and there's other benefits too. So we've implemented a system like this for our icons on DesignStudio. And what I've done is I've set up a situation here where I'm going to show you the different types of icons we have. So what you're looking at is a row of various elements. I'm going to start the first one. This is this kind of standard usage for this. The Sprite Sheet itself looks like this. It's a 6 square grid of icons. It doesn't matter the color they're done in. They're SVG icons, all on the one single sheet. They happen to be done in black just for convenience sake. Now we're going to zero in on any one of those icons as per our needs, okay? So going back to here, what we're looking at here is one small part of that SVG, and it's in white. And the reason it's in white is that we're not actually just displaying an SVG. We're using the SVG as a masking layer for the div that it's contained in. So it's white because the background of the element that it's contained in is white. And to demonstrate that to you, if I were to change the background of this color, of this element, we would see that the icon actually turns blue. And yet we've seen that the SVG file is black. So how did that happen? Well, it's masking the div. The div is blue. It's a box, it's square, and it's blue. But there's an SVG layer over it, which is masking it, and therefore only revealing the background, right? So this gives you huge scope to have a sprite sheet of SVGs where you can actually control the colors through CSS. Now, I added a class BCA5. That's part of the DesignStudio framework. I'll explain more about that later, but what matters here is that I've made the background blue, okay? So I'm going to take that away for a second. The traditional setup would be that you might have a wrapper to that icon, and you would in fact give that the color of blue. Okay, the icon inside it is by default 50% the size of the outer box, and because that seems like a reasonable proportion, but you can change that to anything you like. Okay, so now that we have a blue icon, or a blue icon outer with a white icon inner, and again, if I want to, I can change the color of the icon. That's changing it to green. That's the basic makeup of our SVG sprite sheets and how icons work in DesignStudio. Okay, now moving on, I'm going to skip one and go to this third div here. This is where we don't have a wrapper at all. Okay, we don't need the wrapper. We want the icon to fill the space that we've created for it. That's all there is to say on that, except to say that, again, when you change the color, you're changing the background color of the element, not the color of the SVG. Traditionally, with an SVG, you need to fill the color. Here, we're actually changing the background color of the div that's containing the SVG as a background, okay? Now, what about if we want to use the SVG in its actual form? We don't want to use it as a mask. In this case, sorry, let me tell you that in the first case, the icon has a class of ICA, which essentially stands for icon type A, right? In this scenario, we want the SVG exactly as it's drawn. The colors, any kind of, it can be a multicolored SVG, needless to say, and we want to show it exactly as it is. So we're going to use ICB, okay? Now, a third, the system and the classes that select which section of the sprite sheet to show you is already simple. It's based on a grid of A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, B3, and so on. So it's 1 through 6 and A through 5. Like playing battleships, you pick your square that you want and you give it the code F4, for example, right? So if I change this to F4, I would get an icon for an image, which if we look over here, we go A, B, C, D, E, F, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's our icon of the image. So that's how that works. It takes a little bit of getting used to, I guess, but you can see how simple it is. We've extended that even further. What about an image sheet? Now, the difference with an image sheet is that it's not scalable like an SVG. These are just pure images. They're 200 pixel wide each. They could just as easily be 50 or 120. That won't matter with regards to the framework that places them on the page. But what will matter is that if you intend to use them on the page at 500 pixels square, you'll need the image to be 500 pixels square. Now the thing starts getting pretty heavy in terms of kilobytes. But if you want to do something that's 100 pixels square, 120 pixels square, great for dotting little pictures around your site. Perhaps they could be category images or something like that. This could be a great way of doing it. I go back over to the page. Here we have an example of it. So we're treating it like it's an icon. And in this case, we're giving it ICC. So we've had ICA, which is the changeable SVG. We've had ICB, which is the standard SVG. And now we've got ICC, which is essentially the image icon. Okay. Now that is defaulting onto A1 because that's the first square in the box, but I could change it to C4 and the picture changes. Okay. So I'm calling all of these icons because you can imagine how you might use them across your site. They can be mixed up and changed around. Another part of the DesignStudio system is that we have textures and background images, and there's going to be shape dividers and line dividers, and there's a lot of stuff being added. But let's just stick with images for a minute. In our assets folder, which we upload to our WP content folder, we put in some standard hero images, which of course we've carefully prepared before, right? So here I am on this div here, and I'm just going to use the class BG3, and that gives me one of my images that's in that folder. Okay, great. So now we can take images from our assets folder. We can take the image sheet image from our assets folder and only show one small part of it. But there's one more piece to the puzzle, which is we take our original icon, which don't forget is masking the background, right? And we give that the BG3. And look what happens. We've got the image in the background behind the icon, right? So you can imagine the kind of options that might be presenting themselves here. You can create all kinds of beautiful custom icons. Personally, if I see another transforming X up in the top right of a website, I'm going to scream. I'm tired of it. I think flat design is coming to an end. I think the skeuomorphic Steve Jobs kind of stuff is coming back. People want to see a bit of depth, a bit of texture in their sites. That's just my thinking. These icons, of course, this icon system can be used any way you like, flat or otherwise, but you can certainly see how it's going to be very easy to create some really amazing designs and to get away from these fine line things that everyone's using. It's becoming extremely tiring in my view. So there you go. DesignStudio is all about integrating these things together, making them simple. Preparation is always key. You get your images ready, you get your sprite sheets ready. We'll be filling the design library full of sprite sheets for every subject matter over time, right? We've recently launched a service where when the plugin does in fact launch, you'll be able to send us your design requirements and we're going to prepare them for you for free. So you send us a requirement for a sprite sheet for the subject of, let's say, camping. We'll produce a nice 6 square, that's 36 icons on the subject of camping. That then goes into the design library and everyone can use it, right? Imagine going to your client, or worse, your client comes to you and says, I need custom icons all over my site. I want them to be according to my brand. Well, that's quite a task, isn't it? But you could equally go to Fiverr and put the job up there, and for 30 or 40 or $50, you might get a beautiful little sprite sheet back. So 36 icons for very small money, and suddenly you've turned an ordinary website into something extraordinary. So that's the plan. This was a much faster video. I can't see my clock. I don't know how long it's been going on. But this is all baked into Design Studio. It's dead simple, and it'll give you an idea of what we're trying to do, what you can do with it. It'll give you an idea, but it'll give you an idea. It'll give you an understanding of how we're trying to bring all of these concepts together. How you make your modals, how you do your profiles, how you do your templates, how you create new posts, how you create icons, color system, typography. It's no one module. It's all the modules in one, you know? So I hope that makes sense. I'm going to switch tab and turn this off, and we'll see you in the next video. Okay, thank you.